Worcestershire, in the heart of England. In the historic city of Worcester are many quiet, well-kept suburbs. It's a beautiful place to live, with a charming and welcoming presence. It's a town where children play out late in the streets and the neighbours sit in the garden, talking over the fences to one another, sipping on a pint on a pleasant summer's day. A nice neighbourhood. The sort of place you can leave your door unlocked and everybody trusts one another. The sort of place where everybody knows their neighbour and gets along. The sort of place you wouldn't expect a neighbour like David McGreavy.
There was 3 innocent kids in all this. What did they do? You just can't, understand it.
On Friday the 13th of April 1933, here in Worcester was the scene of 3 horrific murders. The murders were the Ralph family aged 4, 2 and 9 months old. They were brutally murdered by their babysitter David McGreavy. Till this day we still don't know why McGreavy committed such terrible crimes. To try and understand how he became the monster, we have to look into the past.
No, serving our country, you would never think that he could do something like that. But knowing that he had issues and he was kicked out of the Navy, why he didn't get the support that he needed when obviously something wasn't quite right with him. Everybody needs some support at some point in their life. If they obviously knew that he was drinking a lot, so what was leading to his drinking, maybe he wouldn't have got to that stage.
David was an ex-Navy officer in his teenage years. He once reportedly lit a trash bin on fire and was seen to be an arrogant and rude man. He drank quite a lot in the Navy, and in the end he was dismissed. Nobody knows why.
No one can actually say who's capable of what. You don't know what's going through people's minds and how they're dealing with things. It could be that he had a lot going on and he wasn't in the right frame of mind. But personally I would say no, but you just never know.
He then went on to live with the Ralph family. The Ralphs knew him as a friendly and educated friend who often played with their children, especially Paul Ralph with football. Knowing this, they thought the children would be safe with him.
My nan was very close to the family, so as you can imagine it was a very big shock, and what he did to those children for our neighbourhood is very shocking. You wouldn't expect that.
I didn't really know him much. He wasn't from around this area for long, but I saw him walking down the street or in the shop, and that's about it. Nobody really spoke about him, nobody really knew who he was. So that's why it was even bigger shock to hear what had happened, because nobody really knew him.
There's a huge amount of emotion based around this, and you can see for obvious reasons why the emotions are there. I'm aware of McGreavy. I've never actually bumped into him within my time within the prison service, but I am aware of him, and I've seen all the news items, and I've seen the Facebook and all the YouTube comments that are about it. From the 20 years up to his 45 years, he was refused parole on 9 occasions, and the parole board this time have decided that his risk is low enough that he could be trusted to serve the rest of his life sentence outside of prison.
The newspaper, everybody was talking about it as well. So it's a small area, so everybody talks. It's a nice area, nothing's like this has happened before. So it was very shocking to hear that somebody could do something to 3 children like that in any neighbourhood, never mind here. I'd be mortified. I wouldn't know what to do myself. If it was my 2 children, I'd probably want to throttle him.
Well, if you want the honest answer, I would have killed him myself.
David McGreavy was given multiple life sentences for his crimes. During his 45-year imprisonment, he was subject to abuse from other inmates and was placed into solitary confinement. David was released from prison in 2018. The court stated he was punished appropriately and he was no longer a threat to society. Some people might argue otherwise. We will never know what kind of life the 3 murdered children would have had if David McGreavy hadn't committed those horrific crimes. What we do know is that David is now a free man. Could the charming, friendly old man living next door to you, in fact, be a killer neighbour? Tune in next week for the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, the killer neighbour from California.